Okay, here we go. Early Middle Ages. This is going to be your PowerPoint. If you remember, I've already gone over the calendar and everything, or hopefully I have, which I can't, time it out. But this is your PowerPoint for Early Middle Ages. There's going to be a few uploading things before we get into it. You're going to have a video or a PowerPoint from here on out. Okay. Early Middle Ages. Setting the stage. Let's get everything out of the way as far as how we know that these Middle Ages start. The Roman Empire, okay? Germanic tribes were continued to invade the Roman Empire. Many people believed early on in the 4th century that Rome was fixing to collapse. So there was a shift of power in Rome. It was split in the 5th century into two empires, the Eastern Empire, or the Byzantine Empire, and the Western Empire. Western Empire really is more of a European, faction, and you'll see all that here in a minute. So you got Eastern Empire, Byzantine, which is basically Turkey and all those areas right there, and the Western Empire, which is all the European area, Mediterranean, other areas. Byzantine Empire thrives, while the Western Empire of Rome falls. After the fall of Rome, we call this the Middle Ages. Some people call it the medieval period, but it's really either or. Okay, Roman Empire continued. Rome held the world together. You got to understand, we've talked about that before. Everything was held together by Rome, and once it collapsed, there was these losses, okay? The Western Empire collapses, there's a loss of classical ideas or the Greek ideas, literature, philosophies, drama, all those different things. Architecture, etc. Loss of a common language, Latin. Almost not all people in Rome spoke Latin, but the majority of the whole citizenship did, so it made everything a lot easier as far as communication, trade, and everything else. Loss of centralized government. There was no strong central government to protect everybody. Loss of military. There is no more grand military forces, huge forces that had multiple weaponry and all kinds of different things. Loss of law, pretty much no law and order. Loss of trade. Loss of population. Let's go back to trade. Trade, there was no more trade even to the eastern provinces, China and all those other ones. They didn't trade at all. Europe didn't really with anybody for a long, long time. The Eastern Empire, the Byzantine Empire, traded throughout all of Central Asia, China, India, all those things. Population, there's a loss of population. Everybody shifts to the rural areas, which is basically the countryside. There is no more cities. Also, Western Europe, which was the part of the Roman Empire. Western Europe is now politically divided. It's isolated. It's overrun by many different invaders, which are those great-looking guys next in that picture. And so thus the Middle Ages begin. There's an interactive map of Germanic invasions. Once you click on it, I wouldn't click on anything else but other than the invaders themselves, and you'll see where all they came from. In fact, here's another one. I've got several different maps. I got this one and that interactive one. This is not the same as the interactive one, but you can see where all the different these aren't all of them. These are just a few of them. So I would go back and look at that map. Let's talk about the Byzantines, which is the eastern part of the Roman Empire that split. Constantine was the Eastern Roman Emperor. He realizes that, he's the one who split Rome, basically. Goes to the city of Byzantium, turns it into Constantinople. Excuse me. Turns it into Constantinople. I think now it's Istanbul. I can't remember. But it's the new capital of Rome, of the Eastern Empire. The great thing about this city is now he can keep all the Germanic tribes away from him. He can keep them over in Europe, not have to worry about them as much. So they start to thrive. They are also closer, if you look right here, they are also closer to the provinces. Here they are right here, but all over in here, which you can't see on this map, obviously, they're closer to the eastern provinces, China, India, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, all those areas that needed trading. They were still going on. They have their own character. They developed their own way. They still think of themselves as somewhat Roman, but they really weren't Roman anymore because they kept some of the Roman traditions, but they really weren't Roman. They had no Latin. There was no Latin really spoke. It wasn't a common language. There was multiple languages, all kinds of other reasons that they really truly weren't Roman anymore. That's why we kind of call them the Byzantine Empire. Justinian. Justinian is the nephew of Constantine, this guy right here. Justinian is the nephew. He is eventually crowned emperor, or well, not emperor, I'm sorry. Yeah, you can call him emperor of the Byzantine Empire. His biggest contribution was law. He came up with something called the Justinian Code. A lot of his scholars sat around and studied 400 years of Roman law, and they created the Justinian's Code out of all those studies. Justinian's Code regulated all aspects of Byzantine life. It regulated marriage, slavery, property, inheritance, women's rights, crime, and it lasted 900 years. Many of our Western laws still stem from this Justinian's Code. Hagia Sophia, or Hagia Sophia, as some people call it. So let's talk about that. While scholars were studying law, Justinian focused on rebuilding or building up Byzantine. He built great walls to protect the city, built great engineering feats to protect the harbors. He also built beautiful churches. I say he, but he's the one who started it. Built beautiful churches, and the most beautiful one was the Hagia Sophia, which is the one right next to it in the picture. It showed, all these churches being built show the importance of Christianity with the state. And what I mean by the government, the government of the Byzantine Empire, it shows an importance that there is a link. Byzantine Empire is a Christian empire. What I want you to do after, you can take a break here, take the virtual tour of the Hagia Sophia, and you can also watch the Ed Puzzle video on the Hagia Sophia, which is on your Ed Puzzle already. There will be a grade on that. There's a virtual tour. Just click around, see all the different points. They took a camera and placed it in a bunch of different areas, and they have 360 views of it. Don't forget about the Ed Puzzle assignment. Make sure you do that. By the way, also this video is going to be on Ed Puzzle. I think you already realized that. So, Byzantine Empire is thoroughly being great, doing great, and then you have Europe. And this is where the Germanic kingdoms start to emerge. This is what we call the early medieval period. All right, so you got Europe, you got Constantine and Byzantine Empire, two totally separate worlds. There was Germanic tribes, the Goths, the Vandals, the Saxons, the Franks. They divide Western Europe into multiple different regions, really through war is how they divided it. It wasn't like they sat around the table and said, hey, you can have this, I can have that. Borders changed constantly because of war. There was no central rule like Rome. There was no central government. Mostly rural, out in the countries. There was no cities, no written law. And loyalty is to the local ruler. There was really no need for these guys to have loyalty to anybody else but the local tribe ruler. They didn't care about other kings within Europe or anything else. All they cared about was their tribe, especially because they could get a bunch of wealth from going around stealing all kinds of different things. Franks. Let's talk about the Franks. The Franks and King Clovis, which is that dude right there. Franks emerged as the strongest kingdom, the strongest of the Germanic tribes. Clovis was their king in 496. The Franks are a Germanic tribe. They also are called Clovis Franks because of King Clovis. They eventually take over all of Gaul, and they become the French. Oh, there it is right there. Conquers Gaul and France. They do become Christian. Little side story. Clovis is about to die. He's about to, his troops and him are about to die. they're in the middle of a battle, and he sits there and he starts to pray to God, saying, "I've prayed to all my other gods; they have failed me. I'm praying to you. Please deliver me from my enemies, or destroy my enemies." And they turned around and won the battle, and ever since then, Clovis became Christian. He had the whole army baptized. So now the Pope is an extreme supporter of the Franks because of this. The Franks and King Clovis continued. Clovis dies. There's a rise of major domos, or the mayors, and the reason why I put that picture right there, because the mayors at this time were the seedy guys, the little, wormy, the little wormy guys, the little weasel-looking guys, just like this guy over here in Disney movies, the ones that always stood behind the king and always directed the king and where they wanted to go. Really, all they were trying to do is get power. So these guys started to rise. Kings have power, but the more power goes to the mayors. The mayor controls or manages the royal house and the estate. He leads the king's armies and his policies, so you can see where his power is coming from. Eventually, one of the strongest mayors rises, which is Charles Martel. They call him Charles the Hammer. Hammer time right there. You can see it. Stop. Hammer time. He is a mayor that rose to lead the Clovis Franks in the Battle of, Tours. He stops the Muslim advance into Europe. And you can see this picture is obviously not in a pro-Muslim sense. Here's Charles, all great, and his great horse, getting ready to just hammer time people. But he does stop the Muslim advance into Europe at the Battle of Tours, becomes an instant Christian hero. His great-grandson is Charlemagne. Charlemagne is now he is the grandson. I'm sorry, great-grandson. But Charlemagne now is a Carolingian king, and basically all that is right here. If you look, Charlemagne, it's Latin for descendant of Charles. So all the way back to Charles Martel, anybody that was descendant of him is now in the Carolingian Empire, or a Carolingian king, because they are descendant of Charles. He is educated. He's actually 6'5". He's a huge man. He's a brilliant military leader, conquered and fought to control France, Germany, and Italy. He finally did that. He controlled those areas and parts of Spain as well. Strong government. He created a sense of an empire. He spread Christianity. He spread it throughout his empire. He would go throughout his empire, traveling, visiting people, making sure everything was going well in his government. He was also spread education. He started to have some schools of Latin and other things. Pope and Italy are attacked during his reign, so he sends a force down there. He comes to the rescue. Him and his force goes and destroys this little, I guess you can call it a semi-mob, semi-invader. The Pope, after this, because he comes to the rescue, crowns him emperor. Okay, now here's the big deal on that. Why is this significant? Why is it significant that the Pope crowns him emperor? This gives the Pope political power. Now he can claim that he has the power to crown an emperor. Only he has the power to do that, which is huge. Now the Pope has his own. You got to understand, the church at this time, we'll get to it later, has their own political entities, has their own armies. They can do all these different things. So with the Pope doing this, he's now saying that he has the power over all kings. He's the one who can claim who's an emperor. Another reason why it's significant is because a European king is now a Roman emperor. And I put that in quotes because it is in theory. He is a European king, former descendants of the horrible invaders that destroyed Rome, but now a European king is a Roman emperor. Now you have all three. You have the Germanic tribes, the church, and the heritage of Rome are all joined. And so you can argue that this is the start of the Holy Roman Empire. Holy because of the church, Roman because of the heritage of Rome, and empire because of the former empire and the Germanic tribes. After Charlemagne dies, the empire or the kingdom falls apart, and Europe is again weak. New invaders emerge. You have the Vikings from Scandinavia, the Magyars from Hungary and Turkey. You have the Muslims from Africa, Spain, and the Middle East, and they start to continuously, all these groups destroy people, destroy areas, go to battle, go to war, trying to control Europe. Europeans are scared. They fear for their future. So how do they control their future? They look to local leaders for protection. Castles, knights. This is where everything starts. Charlemagne's death, the invaders, and local leaders lead to the idea of feudalism. And that's it.